Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes to you on Traitors Australia Season 2, Week 2. We started with 3 traitors and 1 faithful last week. We ended up banishing Tom the Faithful coming into this week. And then suddenly, Mucky comes to me last night, and he's like, Chris, by the way, I need you to get on board with this. Kahuna's not feeling too well. He's not going to make it to the Traitors podcast this week as well. And I had to have his back, and Mucky, we had the option to recruit and decided not to do so.
Nah, I think just the two of us can easily run a podcast, right? Who needs a third person, right? If you're going to be pulling sickies on us, you're gone. That's all I got to say about that,
Yeah,
You're done. You're out.
And we don't need help, right? We don't need help. The two of us can board the ship here this week. We can man it, we can sail it, we can do everything. Exactly. I don't know why I went towards the ship analogy. It was going to go somewhere, and now we're somewhere in the middle of nowhere and lost our direction to the closest island or harbor.
And the analogy has sailed away, and we're still stranded in the middle of nowhere.
It's kind of like the anchor riddle that they had, went completely over people's heads the last week. Let's say hello to everybody here in the live. Chadu saying, back to my second favorite reality TV show. Chadu, mate, like taking shots this early on, it's too early for this. Andre Lee is saying he gives a $5. Thank you so much, Andre Lee, with the super sticker. Always showing love to the channel. Really, really appreciate it. Danica is saying, I'm caught up with Traitors New Zealand, just starting AU. Well, we'll be here for you whenever you're done with catching up on AU. It was, I think, a really, really good week, Mucky. 2 weeks in a row of so many big characters, big and bold strategy moves being played out early on. How's it comparing for you to Traitors New Zealand, since you're sort of watching both at the same time? Are you feeling a little bit schizophrenic watching both of them, and they're different, or do they sort of go hand on hand?
I actually think they're two completely different shows, right? And obviously you can argue with Traitors Australia being its second season. Everyone kind of knows what the show is about. I feel like the New Zealand cast, they roughly knew what the game was like, but they're still kind of understanding how do you do certain things, right? So while the New Zealand show is very fun, the characters are great, and I love them so much, the Australian cast are so bold and so massive and just so dramatic as well. They'll take one tiny thing and they'll make it blow up harder than the mines in one of the missions. So, it's much more chaotic.
Yeah, Oreo, welcome here to the live, saying don't catch the lives very often, but always rewatch all the recaps. And we appreciate it. For everybody that watches this at a later stage, we always appreciate the support. If it's in the live, if it's later, always good. Chadud is working his way up to my second favorite live commenter at the moment, saying Mucky and Chris are the dream duo, and Chris and Mucky and Kahuna are the 3 musketeers. What a week of Australian traitors. And just before we get into it, just a quick pitch there for anybody that watches reality TV, that loves competitive reality TV. Go and support the campaign that this channel is pushing for Survivor South Africa to be renewed. Obviously, news came out this week that the show has been cancelled. You don't need to be in South Africa to support the petition. You can be worldwide, because I know behind the scenes they're working on a global solution for everybody to watch this thing legally. So if you want to know how to support, go to the community tab on the Nullified Take channel, and you should see, I think it was the second last community post I did, has got a link to the petition. So your support would be greatly appreciated. With that out of the way, let's get into Traitors Australia. And we start off here in this episode where we always do at a morning brekkie, most important meal of the day. They're not sure who's going to go. Is it going to be Peyton? Is it going to be Paul that's going to get the axe here? And ultimately, we do end up seeing that Peyton is no more.
Yeah.
Right? Were you surprised by it?
I was a bit surprised, because it's like with the previous week, there's so much drama surrounding him. But from what Sam and Blake said in their confessionals, Peyton has sort of recovered from that, right? And now everyone truly believes that he's a faithful and stuff, which, what a great recovery, Thank you so much to Danica. Just what a great recovery, from having so much drama circling around you in the first episode to having everyone genuinely believe that you're faithful. So it was definitely the right move to take him out in that case. But originally I was thinking, why are you getting rid of someone where there's already a lot of suspicion around them? But since they made that massive comeback, Yeah, I think they made the right choice.
And that's why I feel like Traitors can be very difficult to play. I feel like Traitors may be one of the most difficult competitive reality TV shows to play, if not the
Mm,
most difficult one, if you're a faithful, because do too good of a job to convince people you're a faithful, the traders see you as someone they need to get rid of because they can't pin the blame on you. You know, do a
yeah.
horrible job at it and push too hard to get someone out that you think is a traitor and start getting really good social capital behind you, and the traders see you as a risk if they can't control you because you could sniff them out at the end of the day. So to find that balance, Maki, I feel like is very difficult to do in this game.
Yeah, and there was even a character on the New Zealand Traders, for those who watch New Zealand Traders, where she did a terribly bad job at being a faithful, where almost at every banishment, everyone thought that she was a traitor for just tiny slip ups and stuff. And unfortunately, the one time they were a traitor, they got they got eliminated. Yeah. But it's yeah, you're absolutely right. This is one of the most hardest games I think you can play because there's so many uncontrollable like variables thrown into the mix, because all it takes is one look, sneeze or a cough or a tap of the leg, and you're gone just because someone finds that to be shady.
Yeah, 100%. And Childhood's got a very interesting comment here. He says, do you think that the producers tell the last two people to go last to breakfast? Also, if they did that, wouldn't they know the traders are gunning for them? And it is a common theme, and it's a very good observation by Childhood, where the last two people to come in, or at least the last person to come in, there's always a very good chance that that person was one of the two people that were discussed to get removed from the game. So if you ever play Traitors for future Traitor players out there and you're the last person to walk in, just know your name is most likely on the chopping block, Mucky. And I don't know what you can do to sort of change that. Even if you see the axe coming, like going into next week, I think we're going to see a lot of that with Luke, where he may know that he's in danger. They could have had us on such a great cliffhanger by the end of the week, but then they spoiled it like they always do with the next on Channel 10 preview, because I was like, no, is Luke gone? And I couldn't wait to watch the next episode, and then I saw the preview and I see Luke fighting to get Sam out of the game in the next episode.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up actually. Did you see the recent trailer that came out? Because I was also like, oh my gosh, like, it's between Luke and Roa. Like, these are two, massive characters on the show. But then we saw that Luke survives. So it's yeah, it was a wee bit sad to see that they'd spoiled that, especially because Luke is such a massive character. If it was someone who wasn't that great of a character, I personally would not have really minded. But since it's Luke of all people,
Do you think that they were afraid that people were not going to tune in? They're like, "Oh, Luke's gone. We're not even tuning in on Sunday or whenever it's Tuesday, whatever that next episode comes out."
Well, that's actually what I was gonna, bring up. Is like, with a character like Luke, a lot of people watching the show are probably Luke fans, right? Like even some people on the cast that had seen Survivor, so they know Luke. Like obviously Annabelle, like
even some podcasters. Should the podcasters stop podcasting when Luke's gone? Is that what you're saying?
You know what? I will. I will not show up to any more podcasts, even to New Zealand Traders.
That's it. He's out. We kicked Mucky from the show. He was never a true traitor. He was not a faithful to the Traitor franchise. So we're better off without him. We'll do the rest of the live without Mucky. Or we'll let him back in. But you got to behave yourself, Mucky. I don't want any of that nonsense.
I told you, man. It's all the fucking milk I've been drinking. And the and the gas leak that happened earlier today. In
too much information for this podcast.
No, man. I'm not saying the two have any connection. I'm just saying there were two big events that happened today. Yeah. But
Andrew says, and Ash fans, and also says Mucky would stand on a table and declare he's a faithful. Probably would. Okay, let's get into the beginning of this episode here. Obviously, Ash, she's the first one in at breakfast. Luke joins her, and man, she grills him, right? And I think in the moment, Luke dealt with it like a true professional, like someone that's been on these shows a lot of the times. He knew he had to give her a little bit because in the back of his mind, he already suspected that she was a traitor at this stage. At this stage, he doesn't know that Sam's a traitor yet, but he's got Sam's back, but he's got to give her a little bit to at least keep her happy and get her off his back. So he does end up telling her that Sam was the one that threw her name around. Did you like this move here? What did you think of this interaction between Ash and Luke so early on? He was sweating bullets.
I thought it was crack up, if I'm being perfectly honest, because this was obviously the moment we've all been waiting for this week, right? Where Ash finds out that Sam is actually going after her, and I feel like Luke also knows that if he tells her the right name, that there's obviously some link between them as well, because we saw in the previous week, Sam was like, let's go for Ash, but there's no real reason for it apart from, I just have a feeling she's a traitor. So I think Luke maybe like kind of knew there's something going on between the two of them. And, we've all seen the King of the Jungle play before. He's very good at sort of stirring, the pot and getting two people to go hard after each other while he sort of just laughs in the background. So I feel like this was a very Luke move to do, just blow stuff up, but just casually sit in the background and watch it.
Yeah, it kind of brought up, memories from back in high school, sitting in the principal's office and having the principal grill me, and I was like, I don't know if I'm traumatized or something by this, but I wouldn't want to go head to head with Ash. She seems like a very capable woman. And I really thought for a big majority of this episode, because she was aware that Ash was coming for her, and Sam had absolutely no idea that Ash was aware of this, that she had a very good shot at taking him out. And, Luke's comment here to say that you keep your friends close, but you keep your enemies even closer. That's the typical Luke thing to do. And it, again, just shows he's got that professionalism. He's got the experience of having played this game a lot. Obviously, Peyton does end up getting murdered. Camille is the second last person walking in, even though Paul was up for discussion. Camille was someone that they also thought about getting out of the game. But I've got to say, like, love Camille. She seems like an awesome woman, but man, she's lost in the dark. I don't reckon she can find a nun in a church at this point. They should just keep her.
Yeah, they should. Yeah, I loved when like Sarah was pointing out, like, oh my gosh, if Camille walks through that door, it's so her. She's obviously such a traitor. But all of her reads, like Camille's reads, have been so wrong. Like not to jump so far ahead. But even when the vote is between Liam and Ian, she votes for Sarah. It's like, oh, I think Sarah's a traitor.
She's on her own. She is on her own mission. I'm telling you, man. Like, she's doing her own thing out there. But somehow the traitors still see her as a threat, which I don't know why. Obviously, they don't have all the information that we have, but she doesn't seem to be close to them at this stage in the game. But Roger comes in saying that that's one less graphic designer in the world. What do you think Roger's got against graphic designers? Do you reckon that it was a movie or a show he played in and they messed up his photo, promoting the show? Like, I feel like there's some hurt feelings there from Roger. He really enjoyed the fact that Peyton was out of the game.
Yeah, well, we've had this chat, off air, Chris, where we both think that CGI in a lot of movies has sort of become very bland, right? And that the best movies like Top Gun Maverick, they do so well because there's hardly any CGI. So maybe
Peyton, but not everybody's as blessed as you, Mucky. They don't have those genes where they can just, have a photo taken of them and they don't need to do Photoshop with it. Someone like Roger maybe needed a little bit of a touch up and someone messed it up,
Maybe it was Peyton who messed it up and they specifically casted Peyton on the show just for Roger's revenge. Yeah.
Yes. He was like, and he specifically asked, make sure this guy is not a traitor so he could get taken out so I can make fun of graphic designers. He had a list.
He chose who the traitors were, so there was no way he was ever going to be choosing Peyton.
Yeah, 100%. So future graphic designers, if you ever go play Traitors, I'm telling you, Roger's got something against you, so be careful with that. But anyway, so as they drive to the challenge on this one here, it's quite interesting because Ash is in the car with Hannah, Luke, and Rowan. Luke with that one comment, giving her a little bit of information, is suddenly in her inner circle. She now trusts him, and she feels like she can openly talk and strategize about Sam being the person that they need to target next. Were you surprised to see Rowan and Hannah in the car there with them talking about the potential blindside here? And did you sort of see this click coming? Because at this stage for me, it looked like Ash, I was fully, like the edit was doing a good job. I was fully thinking, Ash is getting her soldiers ready. She looks like she's got the social capital in the game. I was quite impressed by the ability of her to pull people together as quickly as she could at this stage in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm very much a casual watcher of the Australian Traitors, right? So I'm not sure. Maybe if it was hinted at, week 1, if like this 4 was kind of a thing. But yeah, when I saw her, easily pull in, like Roa and Hannah and Luke, I was like, this is a really good group of people, right? Because you've got Roa, he's insanely social, he's like everywhere. You've got Luke, he's insanely strategic and insanely social. And also with Luke comes Annabelle. So I was thinking, this is actually the start of an empire that's slowly growing. She's got friends with the right people who could easily pull in numbers for her. So yeah, I kind of saw this as like the start of a dream team, perhaps, for Ash.
Yeah, I really felt like at this stage of the game, like Ash was starting to build that group around her, and socially, she just looked like she was doing good out there and playing a very, very strong game. So, obviously we know that this is going to change throughout the rest of the episode. I do want to read a couple of the comments coming in. Chardude saying, OMG, Annabelle is cracked at this game. And she is cracked at the game. We'll talk about a little bit more about that when we get later on into the episode. But Adi is saying when Ash screamed to Sam, she sealed her fate. We'll definitely talk about that when it comes up. Big talking point coming up. Chadu saying it was his dream job and he didn't get it. And the director of the movie saw how much pain he was in, so the director casted him to show the sadness and then kicked off his acting career. Yeah, there's something there. I'm telling you, there's a story. Whoever interviews Roger needs to ask him about what is it with podcasts? Why did he choose us to be his enemy? And what is it about graphic designers? I want to know. Poor will be missed. We'll talk about that in a bit as well.
Absolutely.
All right, so going into this challenge, Mucky, would you want it to be in the coffin or would you want to solve the riddles? Would you not care of doing either or? Because I can tell you one thing. I'm not good at lying still like Annabelle. Like, I move all the time. I'm fidgety right now. It's like I'm constantly on a caffeine high. So there's just no way you could put me into one of those things and for the coffin to remain on the table. I reckon I would move so much it would fall over. So for me, I wouldn't want to see myself in there. I think that's like my worst nightmare, to be in such an enclosed little dark space for the remainder of the time. Plus, I know that most people are idiots. They probably wouldn't be able to solve the riddle. They need my help.
Well, that's the thing. I am one of the idiots who would need your help on solving the riddle. So I feel like I'm actually much better off in the box, where I think I'll be more helpful being in the box than out of the box. Because
listen, Mucky, you're an out of the box kind of guy. I just don't see how we could fit you in a box, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I'm 6'4". I don't think I'd ever be able to fit inside the box. But
okay, let's test that theory. I'm going to give you a couple of riddles, and we're going to see if you can solve them here right on the spot. Right, first riddle. And people in the chat can also join in here if they want.
No.
What kind of room has no doors or windows? I'll repeat it again. What kind of room has no doors or windows? This is going to make for great podcasting while Mucky is sitting there in silence, confused.
What kind of room? Living room.
A mushroom.
That's a good one. It's such a good one. Oh my gosh. I was thinking like
here's another one. Here's another one. You're on a roll, Mucky. You're on a roll. I'll give you another one.
Okay.
During Oreo's saying my bedroom. Jeez, Oreo, where they putting you, mate? Did somebody what room does not have a door or window? Like, where did they put Oreo?
Harry Potter's room under the stairs.
Jadu saying, feed me, I will stay alive, give me a drink and I will die. What am I? Feed me, I will stay alive, give me a drink, I will die. What am I? Jeez, Jadu coming in with the riddles. The bush. No idea. I'd one last one. I'd one last one. We'll move on after this. I'm having too much fun. Let us know, Chadu, which one that was. Last one is, during what month do people sleep the least?
February.
Yeah, Lucky. Good.
Yeah.
You got one.
Let's go.
All right, so 50%. If we don't count Chadu's one, it is a fire. Yeah, it makes sense.
I
and
never
fire.
thought of fire.
Yeah, we should have thought of fire. Like, we're both supposed Survivor super fans, and we couldn't keep our game alive in this game of riddles, and our fire got extinguished.
Legit. Oh my god!
I love the challenge. I love the challenge as a whole. I think the riddles it's pretty cool. Going into the church, it's something simplistic. They had the 5 locks that they had to unlock. Annabelle, obviously, she says she's good at not doing nothing, just lying down, being there. She had so many great one-liners while she was in there as well. Annabelle saying, "You wouldn't want to eat beans before lying in there," or in Mucky's case, he drinks way too much chalky milk. I wouldn't want to open that afterwards.
No, definitely not. So it's like, come on, close it.
Yeah, but I love this Gloria. Suddenly we get to meet Gloria, and she suddenly becomes a character in the last couple of episodes. She chooses to also get into one of the coffins, and I like it. I mean, they did this last season as well. They probably will do that, this specific challenge also when it comes to Traitors New Zealand, because so far it seems like a lot of the challenges that they're doing is rinse and repeat. There isn't necessarily new and creative challenges coming in so far. There is a lot of rinse and repeat, which means that if you watch the show enough and you're a future fan like Annabelle, who's clearly way more qualified to talk about Traitors than both of us being here, you would know how to game the system. You would know how to play this game. And I think she would have been good at the riddles as well, but probably not a bad strategy. If you can tolerate being in a coffin, nobody's going to blame you for losing the challenge if you were terrible at solving the riddle, or if you were terrible at playing the telephone game. Did you guys play telephone when you were young, where you got this big circle and somebody starts with a phrase and you got to see if the same phrase reaches the end of the circle? Did you ever play that as a kid?
We had
actually, you're still a kid. Do you guys still play it on weekends?
I'm only mate. I'm legally an adult. I turned 21 last year. Okay, but So I guess the sort of vision I grew up with is Chinese whispers. So it's kind of like the same concept.
Same
where you
thing.
Come up with the phrase and you pretty much bring it around, and yeah, you also.
We may have just called it something different. We may have just called it something different back in South Africa, but yeah, it's basically Chinese whispers. Yeah,
and you're right. They've already done this challenge, I think, in the 2nd episode. But you're also absolutely right. Though one other thing, because something I'm going to relate this back to Traitors New Zealand, where a contestant is actually the same contestant who everyone thought was a traitor, but and always just got piled on. She was so bad at doing a challenge to the point where people wanted to eliminate her just for the sake of getting rid of her. They're like, she's probably not a traitor at this point, but I want to get rid of her because she was so bad at the challenge.
I would do it. I would do it if I was playing Traitors with anyone ever. Just know, if you're going to suck at challenges, I'm probably voting you out. If you're costing me money, you're out of the game. I don't care if you're a traitor or not. I'm voting out. Scott, welcome back. Scott saying, I got the stream a little bit late, but love your podcast, and I'm watching several versions of the Traitors, so looking forward to hearing your takes on this one. We've had some hot takes already in the first couple of minutes, 23 minutes of doing this. A lot of banter going back and forth as well, but I'm hoping everybody's entertained throughout the episode. But Scott, always good to have you back. I really appreciate it. What else do we have coming in here? Andre saying, yes, she's awesome. And that's obviously Annabelle. I mean, she is a one-liner machine when it comes to this game. Like we spoke about this just before, coming onto the podcast. And I said, Annabelle, like, she seems just like, so far to me personally, and I'm a little bit biased, but I think everybody's in agreement, even though, I think she's great with fans and she's engaging because she's really one of us playing the game. She is the find of the season. And there is a lot of big characters out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Annabelle on crossover reality TV shows. Could she be the next Luke Toki that ends up like jumping on all these different shows? Like, what show would you like to see her on next, and why?
Mucky, well, my natural, first instinct is Australian Survivor, right? But then, when you're...
You just want to see her suffer. You just want to see her
I do,
out of the elements,
I want to see Annabelle
struggling, starving.
But I will be a bit nicer to Annabelle, right? Because we did have a pretty funny conversation just before coming on here. So I reckon a game should ace her is Big Brother. Now, I've only seen one season of Big Brother, and that's one Luke was on, so I'm not sure if every season's kind of the same in terms of format and whatnot. But yeah, I reckon she'll be fantastic on it. She's social.
I want to see her on
strategic.
I want to see her on Hunted next. I want to see them trying to hunt her down and her running away from, what do they call them, the agency or something. I've never watched Hunted, but I've just watched a couple of episodes while I'm living with some friends here in New Zealand for the last 2 weeks because they're really into it, and I know there are people that watch our channel that really enjoy Hunted. I think it'll be funny to see her like run away and come up with creative ideas to keep the chasers guessing when it comes to that. Let's have a few more comments here coming in. Danica saying, since we're completely off topic, Marmite or Vegemite, this was a New Zealand question from Lucky and Hamish. My husband is British, so my kids live on Marmite toast. I grew up on Marmite in South Africa, not Vegemite.
Yep,
but
Marmite
I don't like either. They're both horrible.
How can you be in New Zealand right now and Australia, but not like Marmite or Vegemite, Chris? What's wrong with you?
It's called having taste buds, mate. That's anyways, we're so far off. Let's read a few more comments here. Oreo saying, if we ever see Cara Maria play Traitors, I think we need some sneaky Steve as well.
Yeah, we do. Unfortunately, my shirt is currently being dried at the moment, but I would totally have whipped that bad boy out. But
Andrew Lee, toast with a little butter. What is happening? We've got the chat is completely turning into like we should do like a Master Chef show or something next because it seems like we've got a lot of foodies here in the live. All right, so back on track here with the live. So obviously the blue team wins, Annabelle's team wins. They get 72,000, but this is where the real, where the rubber meets the road, at this stage because Ash does have to go to the armory. She's worried about it because she knows as soon as he goes to the armory, Sam's already getting the forces together to work against her. So it's interesting that it's almost like in Survivor where if you go off to a confessional, to do a confessional, people could be plotting back against you. So she knows the armory is not going to keep her safe in the game. She's a traitor. She just wants to get in and out of there as quickly as she can so that she can start working against them at this stage, which I thought was quite an interesting observation from her.
Yeah, absolutely. I think she knew exactly what she needed to do, like as pointed out, she's a traitor, right? So having a shield is not really going to help her, right? But what she needs is numbers, she needs like numbers, like she needs people on her side, and you're not going to get that by sitting in a room talking to a camera or trying to find a shield, right? So it was a great read by her, and good on her for recognizing that and moving on. You can tell that like she knows what she's doing in terms of reality games because she's been a star on other shows before, so she knows what's up.
This is not her first rodeo. She's been around, and obviously Liam does end up getting the shield, guaranteeing himself some safety. We'll talk a little bit about Liam in the next episode because he sort of looks at himself as a bit of a problem solver, where I look at him as a problem creator, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. I don't know if he's a problem solver. But going back into the house, Sam already is running around. He's trying to get everybody on board. At this stage, he brings Blake into the conversation. So this is after him already for 2 days now gunning for Ash. He finally says to Blake, we're coming after one of our own. I want you to be in on this vote. If you were Blake at this time and Sam brought you into this thing 2 days later, how would it make you feel? Because I thought that Blake was, like, he's got a lot of chill to him, but I feel like he had too much chill to him. At least when he talks to us, the audience, he's uncomfortable, but kind of on board. If it was me and someone came to me 2 days later, I don't think I would have felt as good about it as he did in this situation.
I think he was like a bit skeptical of Ash in general. Like he even tells Sam that, like he doesn't fully trust her, right? Because obviously, she knows what she's doing. She's a very intelligent player. But I do think, though, that if it's like 2 days later and you're kind of last into the group, you're just kind of last in, first out, right? And I think also knowing that Sam is turning on a traitor so early, it must make you think, would Sam do the same for me? Like, yes, he's telling 100%. Me about the plan, but I'm one of the last people to know about the plan. So maybe a strategy Blake could have done is maybe we should try to put the votes onto Sam with Ash, perhaps. But
well, Chadu is asking, does Blake know that it's 2 days later? Well, he actually does end up telling him when they meet at Traitor Tower later on in the night. He says to him, I've had this plan for 2 days. I've been trying to put it together. We finally got her. So Sam, to me, is doing way too much. And he's doing too much if he wants to win the game, but he's doing just enough if he wants to make the season entertaining. Right, Mucky?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think
Like we're the winners of we're the winners. The audience is the winners, but I just don't see a world where Sam wins this season. I just can't see it.
I
Like he's
don't.
playing too risky, too hard, too fast. This might be the first season where very early on all the traders just get wiped. And what does happen if there are no traders? Does
Hmm.
Roger reset the clock? Because we've never seen that happen. If Sam and Blake gets voted out next, does he say, everybody come into the room, we're going to select 3 new traders? Like, how does he deal with that situation? Because
Yeah.
they refuse to recruit as well, which we'll talk about in a bit. But what's your theory on what would happen if there's no traders?
Well, I think Blake is fine, if I'm being perfectly honest. I feel like there's no real heat coming towards Blake's way. He's definitely quite under the radar, he's very quite chill. But I think Sam, he's definitely on borrowed time at the moment. I feel like it would be a miracle. Obviously, we've seen the promo. Both Annabelle and Luke are going after Sam. Two massively influential people in the game are going straight after him. So I feel like it would take a massive miracle for Sam to survive that. But if he does, then I feel like he'll be one of the greatest players to ever play for Traitors Australia if he somehow is able to survive Luke and Annabelle going hard at him and Ash, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think if Sam is able to survive this, then there's a high chance he might win. But I feel like
But
there's
I feel
strong chance
like
he doesn't.
he's going to run out of runway if I'm looking a move ahead, right? And we're way ahead. This is not even this episode. But if he does end up taking one of them out and they're not a trader after
Mm,
they both have been adamant that he's a trader, I think his goose is cooked in the next round where they're
yeah,
like, that's suspicious. You really try to get that heat off you. Maybe there's something there. But, one of the things Sam in this episode for me doesn't do too well is he keeps pushing for Ash with Annabelle and Luke, and specifically Annabelle. She asks, what are the reasons? Give us like concrete
yeah,
reasons to why we should do it. And he can't give them really great reasons.
mm, yeah,
The biggest reason he comes up with, which is something he even repeats when they go to the deliberation table as well, is that he mentions that Ash's personality changed while she was
yeah,
in the house. In the beginning, she was being very abrasive to everyone, and now she's being nice, and that's suspicious that her behavior changed. And for me personally, that's one of the things I kind of find a little bit annoying about the Traitors show as a whole, is the fact that you have to go off something like behaviors, and you have to go off like, oh,
yeah,
this it's he said, she said a lot of the times, which I'm probably always going to complain about it. I know it's part of the game. It's just
yeah.
like, it just doesn't feel like there is much to go off when it comes to selecting a traitor.
Yeah, well, as Andre, can definitely point out, all the New Zealand traders watchers can easily point out, sometimes all it takes is for someone to literally just sit back in their chair a certain way, and that's enough to get someone banished. Like it's
That's why I wouldn't want to
absolutely
play the
nuts.
game. I
Yeah,
think the game would just be too hard for me,
yeah,
because just by me being fidgety and moving a lot like I always do, they'd be like, no, he moves around too much in his seat. He's uncomfortable. Let's vote him
yeah,
out. He looks
yeah,
nervous.
exactly.
And
Which
I'd be
is
like,
why,
this is my normal state. You don't want to see me nervous.
exactly, which is why you got to be the most dramatic, over the top person you can possibly be. Just
Yeah, like
be.
Ian.
Yeah, like Ian. Oh, well, to be fair, it didn't really work out for Ian. But yeah,
Because he wasn't, because he was sitting back and doing nothing.
because yeah, if you're so over the top and you're here, there, everywhere, and people can see that, oh, you're kind of like a Carolyn almost from Survivor US. If you're like that even before they announce who the traders are, maybe you can get away with that. But otherwise,
Go find a rock in the garden and just start rubbing your face with it.
yeah,
In front of
yeah,
people.
exactly, yeah. Exactly,
Childhood
man.
saying Ian is just in his own mind. Yep, he was.
Yeah, he
Aria
is.
saying,
Yeah.
I think if once Sam goes, Blake will be forced to choose someone. Yeah, I think so. I think you
Mm,
can't have no one. Chad is saying, I don't know, Mucky, because Annabelle has put Blake's name out there. Yeah, we'll talk
mm.
about that in a bit. But Sam does a lot of work here, and I think he overplays his hand a little bit, and that's why someone like Luke has played a lot of these games. I mean, he's played Survivor twice. He's played against some of the best players to ever play the game.
Yeah,
He's gone on to Big Brother, where he had to play a very similar game where you've got to try and decipher who's lying to you, who's working with you. And something seems off for him in the way that Sam is approaching him, which immediately makes Sam someone that I think he sort of questions in the back of his mind, but he doesn't verbalize it yet in this episode. But on the other side, Ash is doing a pretty good job with her group as well. She's talking to Roha, she's talking to Hannah, and saying, can you guys go and try and sort of work the room? And I thought that their strategy of having Hannah go to one group, having Roha go to another group, sort of dividing and conquering was a very, very good strategy at this stage.
Yeah.
But somewhere down the line, Ash does not stay loyal to Hannah, and she drops that. It could be Hannah. She's grasping at straws. Do you think that's the thing that finally sunk her game here, as someone that just didn't seem loyal as well?
Yeah, I think that was probably the final nail in Ash's coffin, especially, when they're at the council area, all having a chat. I feel like if she just tells him to keep going after Sam, because one of Sam's biggest arguments was, like, Hannah, did you know that Ash was coming after you? So therefore she loses a key ally in Hannah. Obviously her, Anna, Roa, and Luke kind of like a bit of a awesome foursome, but that also makes Roa potentially question Ash, and that definitely makes Luke potentially question Ash as well. Like, is she actually going to like fully go with the same plan, or is she like just trying to really grasp at anything she can to sort of stay alive, right? So I think if Ash did not throw Hannah under the bus like that, I think I think Ash probably has got a good chance of staying.
Yeah. Chadu, well, thank you so much for that $2 donation. We really appreciate it. Chadu is saying Ash was getting too desperate for ideas. And I think that, again, showing her hand a little bit there. And that sort of played against her when it came to the deliberation table. And it was something that they could throw back to cause chaos within her own loyal numbers in the game as well. But we do end up going to the table. They have to decide like who's going to get banished tonight. And Roger starts it off by being his normal cheeky self by saying, if you're a traitor, can I get an amen? And he lifts his hand, and no traitors lift their hand. Mikey, be honest, would you have been caught out?
Yeah, I would be like, amen, brother. Something.
Oh man, you would have been the Eric Reichenbach of Traitors. Gone down as, so you're like, I'm going to go down a legend somehow, even if it's for dumbest moves in Traitors history. It's going to be me.
Well, a story I should tell you, Chris. Everyone who watches New Zealand Traitors will know this story, but in theatre sports, because Hamish coached me improvised acting and stuff, and that's how we first got to know each other. We played werewolf a lot.
Now I know who to blame. For all your flaws. Like, I'm going to be able to
It's all Hamish's fault, yeah. But basically, a game we played a lot was Werewolf, which is like, another version of Mafia, which is basically what Traitors is about. And I would just be like a faithful or just a random innocent. But there's, especially in Werewolf, there's a card called like the police officer or something, and they're able to like inspect everyone by asking, is that person the werewolf? And the host would have to nod yes if it is, or no if it's not. I would just lie about the card I had. So even if I was faithful, I'd be like, well, actually, I'm the police officer, and I asked if that person was the werewolf, and it was yes. Like, I just, I just tanked my own game every time. And so, yeah.
You and Andre. You're kindred spirits.
Exactly.
You're kindred spirits. Scott's he's a little bit behind, but he's talking about falling out of coffee. He must have hated the US version, which I'm also watching because of Suri, where they actually buried the miss me with that. Gosh. Also the challenge. There was one season in the challenge where they buried somebody underground, and then their partner, they were rivals, and they weren't sure who their rival was going to be. So they had to like run, because there's like, who that hated me in the previous season is playing with me in this season. They're like, they're a duo of theirs. And they had to like dig them out to find out, it's your ugly face. I don't want to see you in the game. So it's a double whammy. But I definitely would be wanting to do the digging, not the being buried. Chowdhury here brings up, this was one of the most intense banishment talks yet. And it is right, because, in this one here, Ash and Sam goes for each other, and Sam didn't see it coming. He wasn't aware that Ash was aware that he was coming for him, so he's trying to figure out who was the person who threw his name out there. Luke's name comes out. Obviously he's going to have to do damage control in the next episode there, because now Sam knows he's someone he can't fully trust. And there was a lot of back and forth, and I feel like there's a lot that we've missed on this, because the main case for Ash was that Sam's throwing my name out there, and he is the traitor because he doesn't have anything on me. Sam and the other end are saying, well, your personality changed. You're not the same person anymore. You're also trying to throw Hannah under the bus, which means you're not loyal. Clearly, you're just trying to confuse and direct people in a different way. And I feel like that there was some truth to Ash's personality where she was that brutal, where she, told him to shut up, where people really didn't like it, that they just didn't felt like she was someone, even if she wasn't a traitor, do you really want to have someone there that shuts you down like that where you can't have a conversation? I feel like they just felt she was difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it was a very heated moment for sure, but it wasn't just heated between, Ash and Sam. Even Roa started getting involved by being like, actually, Sam, you were also throwing around Hannah's name. Other people starting to get involved and throwing out Sam's name and Ash's name. And yeah, it was it was like a blockbuster almost, I sat here with my cheeky little chalky milk and I was enjoying the show. But yeah, I feel like, there's several nails for Ash's coffin, which one of them we spoke about was, her sort of targeting Hannah. Another one was like for just telling Sam to shut up and for being so aggressive at Sam. Yeah,
I agree. I think that's what really put people off, and I think that's also potentially a reason why the Traitors and maybe Blake didn't care so much about losing Ash. Maybe she was high maintenance even to deal with within the Traitors Tower, and that sort of played into their thinking of, listen, let's just get rid of her because she's someone that's difficult to work with. Doing this role is stressful enough as it is. Plus, socially, she seems to be making some really good alliances. She's getting people together. That could be a counter alliance against you in the future when she finally comes for you, when the numbers are less. So I get the reasoning behind it. Sam's over eagerness to put himself out there that early, I still question, but I do get why he wanted to make a move. And he's definitely going to be memorable. He's definitely fun to watch on the show. And if he does get past Luke and Annabelle, I actually wanted to ask you this question because you know how some people get really tribal about the people that they like in a game. And they're like, Luke and Annabelle, they're my people. They get voted out. I hate on Sam. Sam's horrible. Are you like that, or do you support the end product as a whole? Because I love Luke and Annabelle, and I would love for them to win this game, but I still care more about the product as a whole. So if Sam does end up, winning this thing, and if he does end up pulling it over them, I will give credit where it's due.
Oh yeah, exactly the same, right? Quite often our favorites never win the shows, right? And that's just a fact, right? Because our favorites are often like the bigger names, the bigger characters. So obviously they get taken out. And, it's good on the other players for understanding that, like people like Luke and, like Annabelle are too big of a threat, in the game and stuff. So unfortunately, maybe they will get taken out. I'm not sure. But because you get players like Boston Rob, for example, Redemption Island, he was a massive favorite coming in. But then everyone just, crap talks the season and say, oh, he only won because his cast of newbies. Well, they let him get to the end, right? But if he'd gone voted out, similar to Russell Redemption Island, maybe the conversation would be quite different about that season and about the players in it. So I think that just respect the season in general, respect the players and stuff. Unfortunately, our favorites hardly win majority of the time, but like
it's one of the things that's what makes it, like I always say, that's what makes it so brilliant when your favorite does end up winning a season. That's what makes it enjoyable. Andrew Lee here says, in terms of Ashes blowing up her own game, where would you weight or that in terms of top 10 or 20 reality contestants blowing up their own game? That could actually be a really cool topic to talk about in the future, like the top 10 or top 5 biggest blow-ups in reality TV. I think that there is a bit of blame that should go to Ash's game for sure, and her being very bombastic. I think she was fighting for her life, and it's very easy to judge from the sidelines and say, oh, I'd never blow up like that. But then again, to her, that's her life in the game, and it feels like life or death. So I get why she was fighting. I think that if Sam does end up going next, he will jump, so far ahead of her in blowing up his own game. I think that Sam is really the one that I'm having my eye on. Like, he could either be a mad genius or just mad. And we're trying to figure that out at this point. We're trying to figure out if he's a mad genius or if he's just absolutely crazy. And if you think about, in Survivor terms, Tony Vlachos was exactly the same when he played the first season. People questioned his moves all the way to the end. I remember listening a lot to Rob as a podcast that season, and Rob and Stevie, Stephen Fishback, saying the whole time that this guy's not going to make it. He's making all the wrong moves, and he ended up going on to win it. So
Yeah.
what do we know? We're not there. We're not playing the game, but it's fun to watch. I'm definitely there for the long run. Let's have a couple of... Yeah, go for it.
I just want to point out as well, like, how grateful are we? You know, like, obviously we can judge Sam for making some wrong moves, but a sort of conversation we've had, you know, in the past, Chris, is playing it smart versus playing it for TV, right? Because I think, you know, for players like us, we're super fans, right? You know,
we play
would
for
love
TV.
to, yeah, we play for TV, right? We would love to, you know, play
Cast
a season
us.
and cast us. yeah, please, we'll do anything. But yeah, it's like, you know, we'll play the
game,
game. Right?
No worries.
Yeah. But we would also love to maybe be invited for some type of all-star season again, right? Because quite often you get players who will play, you know, the game, and then they get eliminated, and they're like, oh, I should have done this, should have done that. I'm personally someone who's like, you know, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to make sure it's because it's my own damn fault, right? Of doing too much too early.
No one blindsided me. I blindsided myself, okay?
yeah, exactly. I set up my own elimination, not you. But it's yeah, like, you know, George, for example, in Australian Survivor Brands versus Brawn, the first time he played, you know, he obviously was playing for the TV. And, you know, if it wasn't for George that season, I feel like it could have been a lot more boring, right? Yeah, exactly. So I feel like while it is very easy to criticize and judge, you know, other players like games and stuff like that, like, oh, this person's blowing up their game, maybe it's intentional, because maybe some players just want to be just a great TV character and to bring so much entertainment. You know, like, yes, they may go out early, but you're always going to remember them for doing that, right? You know, like, one of my favorite first boots in Australian Survivor is Matt Dyson, who just blew up his own game at the start of season 3, right? Yeah, and David Gannard.
Luke Toki.
Luke Toki as well. Yeah, but with
Annabelle.
So many other, Annabelle, yeah. But with so many other first boots, I don't really know them, right? But since Matt blew up his own game, I remember him for that. So yeah, that's just my personal take on things.
So I've seen a couple of the BB24 comments here. I'll address it real quick. So BB24 has got Sir Fields playing it with his son, Jared. I'm about 3 episodes behind. I need to catch up at some stage. It's been a bit of a busy week on this side. For those who don't know, in the process of moving to Australia. So that has kept me really busy with moving stuff and just doing life admin, you know. So I've fallen behind a little bit, but I will catch up. And Danica saying that BB25 has an Australian on the season branch out and apply to other countries. The Australian that they have is a DJ from Australia who lives in, I think, Los Angeles. So I do think there is still that clause that you need to live in the country that you apply for. Now, Mucky at the moment can only apply for Traitors NZ if they do come back, because I don't think there's much other reality TV going on at the moment, unless, you know, I'm working on it. I'm working on getting him over to Australia. Next year, I'm in Australia. So guess what? This guy will start doing? He'll start applying for some shows. Like, it'll happen. It'll happen. And obviously, I'm a South African citizen. I've always wanted to play Survivor South Africa, but we need to get that back on. So more reason for people to go sign the petition for Survivor South Africa, so that there's more opportunities for me to potentially get back on onto one of these reality TV shows.
And once I move to Australia, we might be on the same season.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's good. Like, Mucky would tank my game so hard. If I had to choose somebody from the Nullified Take channel to play the game with, it would be Jake, I'd say, from the US. I'd get Jake in, because Jake's a guy I can reason with. I reckon he would want to play a reasonable game. Mucky, I don't know about. I don't know. Mucky and Chris for the Amazing Race. We could go do the Amazing Race together, I reckon.
Definitely. Or the challenge, Ride or Dies. Yo, Danica.
But I do feel like Danica. I feel like Kahuna would be so upset if I don't take him with for the challenge. But I don't know if Kahuna's always said he doesn't really want to do any of these shows. So I don't know. You know, maybe it would be you. But anyways, coming back to this, so Ash does end up getting banished here from the game. They finally get one right. Everybody is fist pumping and is happy and it's cheerful. And Sam now feels like a hero. I mean, he even does a little dance as he goes down the stairs into the breakfast room. You know, he is flying high on cloud 9 going in there. And it's interesting because, you know, they had to choose in the Traitors meeting, who are they going to send off to a better place? right? Who are they
Yeah.
eliminating from the game? And I have to say that because otherwise we might get hit again here. There's a few people that they do consider, I believe it was Paul and Simone at this stage. But Paul had a very interesting comment the previous night at the table, which I think was the final nail in his coffin, where he says, I'm not going to tell anybody who I vote for. And the traders are
Yeah.
like, well, if you're not going to tell anybody who you vote for, we can't manipulate you in the game. So he kind of sunk his own
Exactly.
game.
Yeah, he did. He did. I was kind of thinking that's not a great thing to say, out out in the open. I feel like just throw out random names and votes potentially, but never fully say who you're going to personally vote for. I don't know, but yeah, always keep your cards to your chest and not open for even to see them, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
I think so. You've got to give. I feel like in Traitors, and I'm still working out how to play this game. Like I am by no means an expert at Traitors. Not that I think I'm an expert at any of these games. I just love to comment on it and laugh at the silliness of everything. But looking at it, I feel like you've got to give them something, even if it's like false information. You're like, I'm going to vote this
Mm,
way, but then you do the opposite, or you're like still listening to people. But you also need numbers. Like I don't think Traitors is the kind of game that you can just solo fly through it. Like Simon Me would struggle, I reckon, because he wouldn't be able to just
yeah.
solo go through the game on his own. Simon Me for
Well,
Traitors season 3, and I want him to be a traitor.
I mean, you say that, but I feel like majority of heroes versus
Now when he
villains
shows up,
was him flying
everybody's
solo.
yeah. Now when he comes back, everybody's going to think he's a traitor, and I just sunk Simon's game. Sorry, Simon. All right,
Oh,
so
God.
at the breakfast, we have Liam coming in. We get this package of Liam, being an electrician, farm boy. Bold statement coming in with the shield to breakfast. It seems like a mucky move to do that, where everybody else was hiding the fact that they got the shield. He's just telling everybody, this is what the shield looks like. I wanted to show you guys. What did you
But
think of this move?
but what's wrong with showing people you have the shield? It's like you're potentially not going to get murdered anyways because you're part
Yeah.
of the group that potentially had it. Plus, I'm pretty sure that's the night the shield expired as well, or like the morning after it expired.
Mate,
So
in a game,
who cares?
where sitting back in your chair and saying nothing can get you eliminated, I feel like coming in with the shield and be like, he's too confident, he's cocky, he may be a traitor because he knows he's not going to get banished in the next one or murdered in the next one. So we're going to vote him out. So I feel like, any kind of thing that makes you stand out in Traitors can be difficult. Like it's constantly you want to ride that middle wave. And I don't know by him doing that if it was a good idea or not, but it does end up being the last time that they get the shield in secret, which because of
Yeah.
Annabelle, they've had that great strategy. It's kept half of the house safe because they confirmed it.
Mm.
Whoever won the armory challenge was never murdered because they couldn't risk it.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like also sometimes it's like just risk it. Because what's really going to happen if you kill someone and then they are saved by the shield? It's like, oh no, they know they're getting targeted by the traders, right? But you still don't really have much to go off apart from people are targeting you. But yes,
Yeah.
I'm down for this, Andre. I'm so down.
Well, Mucky has been like cooking something up in the background for a long time, but I feel like the chances are high that Mucky might end up following me over to Melbourne at some stage and might not get to the point of doing like a TNT Survivor Auckland, So, but one thing I will say on this, Andre, my dream for this channel, if we do end up getting enough people following it and supporting a local, because we're really trying to get a channel in Australia and New Zealand that can cover local shows as well as the US shows, because that's always something I'll cover on the channel. I love Survivor, I love Challenge, I love The Amazing Race over there and stuff like that, and The Mole and other things coming in the future. But at some point, we'd love to have like lives and stuff like that where we can get people together, and it could be an Auckland show, there could be a Melbourne show, a Sydney show, where we watch the premiere together, or we do a podcast live or something like that. It'd be cool to get to that point, but obviously we're still very far away from it. But we appreciate everybody supporting us, and even if you're not from this area, if you're not from Australia and New Zealand, who knows, we get big enough, we can go to the US and do it there as well. I like the US. I was there not that long ago, and Mucky's been there not that long ago either. Right, Mucky, you were there like last year, right?
Yeah, last year, I went to cheeky Star Wars land, wore my Chewbacca jersey everywhere, just to show off. I had some stormtroopers roast me, which was pretty great. But yeah, the US is awesome.
Yeah. Andrew,
Yeah,
Adi saying, had Simon suffered enough? Simon has never suffered enough. Like, we want him to
Yeah.
keep suffering. Andrew Lee is
Oh,
saying, yes,
boy.
my complaint with Traitors Australia, where are the cookies? All right, that's a New Zealand reference, I'm assuming.
The cookies.
I don't know.
No. Is that a Jericho reference? I don't know.
Maybe. Could be. Cookie
Yeah.
Monster. We need Jericho there as well.
We
Chardud
do.
says, wait, if you hide the shield, how do the Traitors know they can't kill you? Well, the thing is, if you hide the shield, the Traitors have to take a shot at someone in that team, but they don't know who's got the shield. So it's like maybe like one of the potential people we could murder. That's all. Send off to a better place, YouTube. Please don't punish us. One of the people we're going to send off to a better place might have the shield. So it's like that. You don't want to waste your turn because they don't get told if that person had it until the next morning. So that's kind of how it works. Andre saying that was a risky move showing the shield. I agree. Danica saying, can I just say, I love that I can still participate, even though I haven't seen the show yet. I found it last night. Don't know the Traitors yet. I'm just tuning out the names y'all are saying. Yeah, Danica, you're going to enjoy it. I think it's a good show. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're enjoying the chat and staying here with us. Danica saying, Doris and I can handle the Florida branch of the TNT. 100%. I tell you what, I love Florida. If I come back to Florida, we're going to have to make something happen. I was actually talking, and this will go over a lot of people's heads, and I can't help because we cover so much shows. I was talking to Louis from the Challenge this morning, and he's in Florida, and he did a Challenge event not that long ago. So who knows? Maybe in the future we can go to one of his events. Andre is saying Survivor Australia reference Jericho and Simon. Yep. Andrew Lee is saying sent to the because of the cookie idol. Andrew Lee is saying sent to the farm on a tractor.
Well, for context of that, that's the New Zealand version of the castaways being sent away.
Yeah. So Chadu, the shield is like an immunity idol. So if they try to take someone out that has the shield, then they will not. They basically wasted their turn, and that person will show up the next morning. They have immunity in the game, basically, and only immunity from being taken out of the game by the Traitors, not immunity from being banished in the game, which I think is a little bit different from last season 1 of Australia. I think they were also immune from banishment, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, which was slightly a little bit of a different power here. So coming back to this specific, I guess, breakfast, Luke here lets us know for the first time he thinks Sam is a traitor and that he's got everybody in his pocket and he's now the hero and that he did a mutiny. So he very quickly reads this. He's onto it. We've spoken about it a little bit. So we know that Luke and Annabelle are working closely together. They were both in the car with Sam in the beginning. So it may have been denied or confirmed by someone that there was something going on between an alliance potentially brewing there, which I don't think is a big secret. You're getting into the game. You're going to try and align with people very early on before you get in there. And then I want to move on because we're going to come back to Luke later on. We have Ian, this big ball of happiness. He's a content creator, dresses up as Tina Turner. He's got this larger-than-life personality. And as soon as I saw a little bit of content from him, I knew he was in trouble this episode because we had nothing from him for the first couple of episodes, but I do like him. It just seemed like he was struggling to fit in with a lot of the personalities there at the game or in the game because he seemed like a really nice guy, but just didn't really, I don't know, didn't pop.
Yeah. No, I think you have it spot on. Where I do think he's a very larger than life character. Unfortunately, he just didn't have those tight social bonds, right? And I feel like similar with Liam. I'm pretty sure they showed both Liam and Ian's like their intro package in the same episode, right? So I kind of had a feeling that okay, these are potentially the two people in trouble for this episode and potentially like the next couple of episodes, right? And so I had to brag, but I was completely right about that. I read the edit, but no, you're absolutely right. Ian, he's a great character, but I think his downfall was that he didn't have the right social bonds with people.
So going into this episode, we see that the format is going to change slightly. There's going to be 2 challenges. The first challenge is going to be to, get a team to win it, and then that team will then individually take each other on to win the shield. So now it's less about luck and choosing the right box, but it is about your skill in doing these daily challenges. Into the challenge, they go into the middle of nowhere. They're basically in a paddock while it's raining, and they have to go do this challenge, crawl underneath obstacles, get through barbed wire, and go stand over mines with questions of fellow contestants or facts of the show up until this point, and then they have to determine, which one is true, basically. If they're wrong, they have this big surprise with, I don't know what it was, like, it looked like ash, but it's like this black substance that gets blown into your face, basically. And Gloria had the comment of all comments here when one of them got blown up by this thing where she said, that person looks like me right now. And I was like, well, I guess it's okay for her to say it, but if I said it, I reckon I would have been bloody cancelled.
Yeah, you would have been cancelled, right? You so would have been cancelled. But there's another great moment, which I feel like is probably one of my all-time favorite moments so far in both the Traitors shows, where I think it was for Luke and Sam. They had one which has Roger won like some kind of like acting award.
Loki.
A Loki, yeah. And and it blows up, and he just turns the camera. It's like, that is exactly how I feel, like, or something like that.
But I think some of it, like, even something outrageous like Roger being able to win a Logie, because we all know, I'm just joking. I'm just taking stats back at Roger, because he doesn't like us podcasters. But I'm never going to let that go, Roger. You made an enemy out of us. But it is, I think, one of the things probably to take into consideration is that it took 90 seconds that they had to get underneath that thing and find an answer. So for some of them, it was that much of a struggle just getting underneath the commando crawl bit of it, that they just chose the first available one, and they were like, let's just hope this is right. I feel like, because the 90 seconds was running out by the time they actually got to it. It looked like a tough challenge, especially if you're going in there, every single time. It was one of the more physical ones that we've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely. But there was actually
not just mental.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But there was one landmine which unfortunately was not used. But I thought, oh, this is such a great setup, where the landmine is there like an animal rug or something in the Traitors Tower? And I thought, oh, that would be such a great way to set someone up, where they like land on that, and then let's say if it's like right or something, that would have stepped someone up so bad.
I didn't even catch that. That is funny. Like, so I guess everybody stayed away from that one. They're like, I'm not answering that one just in case I am right. I'm staying all away from that one. Like, I didn't even catch that. Good pickup. Really, really good pickup. There was a couple of interesting ones. There was the one obviously with, do you think X amount of people have been in the armory? X amount of people have won the shield. Obviously, because no one ever actually said who won the shield. They didn't know that Simone won it twice up until this point. And again, I think that Simone, throughout this, there was a couple of times where she showed how smart she is. She's already on the radar of the Traitors as someone that's very smart in the game. But, when she started working out the votes, how many votes Guy had, things like that, when it came to numbers and stuff like that, she seems really onto it. For someone that hasn't had, like, and that's why, you know what, the more I think about it, my eyes are on Simone as a potential person who's going to go deep in this game, because she's consistently getting shown to us, even if she's not necessarily the center of attention when it comes to the show. Yes, they needed to show she got the shield twice, but they could have still given her less. Like, especially with Australian TV, they don't show us much content from people who don't matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's still people on the cast who I don't actually know their names of yet. But something that someone just commented, RD, the slow-mo blast they had, except I think it was on Blake, where they did like the replay of it, and he's just there on his knees, and it's got like that sort of ominous like sort of music playing. Oh, it was so funny. There's a lot of
I feel like we need to like devise like something, like every time Rojas says something about, well, he's out of the game probably now, so it's not going to matter. But he had that comment about fashion again, and we didn't even talk about the clique and all of them wearing pink and betraying Annabelle, betraying Annabelle, not even letting her know. Like, her favorite color is pink. She comes in blue the one day when everybody decides to wear pink. Do you think that was like the final straw for Annabelle, where she was like, this can't last. Like, we got to start taking these people out. They're not my people. They're not letting me in.
Ash was banished that night. So don't go against Annabelle.
You're on the list. You're on the list now.
Exactly. And then, unfortunately, it does seem to be kind of spoiled. Seems like Roa goes out next instead of Luke.
Yeah. So who's going to give us? Who's going to give us the tasty comments? Like, when you go down to do the when Ian went down to go do the leopard crawl and his underwear was sticking out, he was like, "Oh, I wish I had like better underwear or something for the occasion or something like that." Like, who's going to give us those great insights?
Good underwear, yeah. Yeah, I love
things
Roa
that really
so
matter.
I exactly.
I actually reckon Roa would be a fun time out. If you went to go out for a night, go to the clubs, I reckon Roa would be a lot of fun. But I don't think Roa would hang out with me because I absolutely love flip-flops and jandals. So I feel like I'm not his cup of tea, like he wouldn't hang out with me.
Well, I also like flip-flops and jandals, but I've got a wee bit of a crisis going on where I've got one, but I don't know where the other one has gone. It's somewhere, but I've just got one flip-flop.
People come to this podcast for our takes, luckily, not our fashion scenes, because otherwise we'd have 0 subscribers. All right, so what happened here on this one? So they do end up winning it. Team Red wins it with Annabelle and Luke winning it for them right at the death. But it was going back and forth. It was very competitive throughout. I thought it was a fun challenge. Played off great on TV, which is important. Love the slow-mos, like you said, with the ash blowing up in their face. And let me just see if there's any other comments that people have before we move on to the next section here in regards to this. Andrea is saying that was a fun challenge. Scott is saying, just imagine if George played Traitors. I think he'll play Traitors next, or maybe he'll play Big Brother, or maybe he'll play Hunted. Like, I feel like George is going to be like Luke. They're going to put him on a lot of shows. I mean, for Scott, you're not from Australia, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, you tell me, Scott, I feel like you're from Chicago, but I could be wrong. I don't know if my memory is that good, but I know you're somewhere around the US. But what you might not know is that George's dog is getting his own TV show. Just to give you an idea of how much Australians love George, they're going to get George on more shows in the future. Danica saying, in Florida, it's required that you have a pair of flip flops. I know. I was rocking the flip flops when I was walking around there, Danica, and no one looked at me strange. I didn't feel like I was an outcast while I was there. Similar to New Zealand, we wear them here, but it's like cold when we do.
Is it okay, Danica, if I was to wear one flip-flop? Because unfortunately, that's all I got at the moment.
Subscribe to the channel so we can grow this channel and donate Mucky another flip-flop, everyone.
Please.
Chad saying George is going on The Amazing Race. Yes, he is, with his sister. It's going to be fun to see how he does there. Adi saying efficient for running away from gators. Yeah, I don't know about that. Then I can say, Mucky, we often go barefoot, so I think you'll be all right. Yeah. Oreo saying George gets sent over to the Challenge 42 and wins. Australia should get national holiday. If that happens, man, I'm telling you, like, George should honestly go put everything on black in the casino, because I reckon, if he can win the challenge, which is all about challenges, when he's horrible at them, it would be an amazing feat.
What about the Amazing Race? Isn't that all about like a challenge?
No, but it's a mix. Like, the Amazing Race has got a little bit to do with word puzzles, memory challenges, overcoming your fears, like jumping off a cliff, doing bungee jumping, so. I feel like George could do really well. I just don't know. The thing with Amazing Race is you need a partner that balances yourself out really well. You need a partner that can do the weaknesses and stuff for you. Shadud coming in big with the $2 for money to help Mucky with those thongs. Yeah, we're sorting you out here, Mucky. It's going to be no excuse.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.
When you get to Australia, there's no excuse for you to walk around with one flip-flop. Don't think I say George should be fabulous on anything he's on. Yeah, he's just good TV. Yeah. All right, so we do get the second challenge, and the second challenge is something that I thought immediately when I saw it that Luke would do extremely well at, because it's shooting with a crossbow, it's outdoorsy. I thought Survivor, I don't know why my head went back to like the Outback with Colby and them shooting, like, with a I think it was like a proper bow and arrow as well, not a crossbow, but with a crossbow. It was an interesting battle. One of the things that stood out for me, and it's just my mind sometimes works like that, is clearly they decided to do this on a different day because it was raining, it was horrible weather, and then they sort of drove from the castle the next morning. I could see it in the scene. There was clear skies. So somewhere in between, something must have happen, or they decide the weather wasn't good enough for them to actually do it immediately. But they have to shoot each other's flags basically, and whoever's
Yeah.
flag gets shot, that person gets eliminated from the game. What did you think of this challenge and how it played out?
Well, I love the challenge. I'm all about like shooting and crossbows and all that sort of stuff. Like I thought it was a really fun challenge, really fun. But there's also because one of my favorite survivor challenges, which they've stopped doing, I don't know what it's called, but it's the one with like the rope and stuff, and like you get like three hits on them, but you have to answer like a series of questions. The most common answer is like the right one, but there's a whole like social strategy thing, which like do go after your alliance members, do show who's on the bottom, right? Because you Loki kind of show.
So one and done feels like it's a little bit too quick, maybe.
I think so. Yeah, because there was the whole strategy of Luke went after Sam. Obviously, Luke had that other intention, but he was able to easily pull off as a joke, like, "Oh, I'm only going after you, Sam, because you're the only one who can shoot shit."
Very good skills from him to do that.
Yeah, exactly. But
and then Liam kind of followed.
Yeah, exactly. Liam followed, but then again, at the same time, if there was multiple targets, they would have definitely been there forever from from what it seems like with all the different montages of people missing.
Yeah, and like it not even being close, like the flag's not even in the shot, and you see the arrow flying, and you're like, okay, this is clearly missing by miles. But it was interesting, and also another thing is you wouldn't want to be Luke in that situation because he must have drew the short end of the stick because he was right at the end. So what if Sam just targeted him from the start? He wouldn't even have gotten one shot because he would have been out of the game immediately. So I don't know how they decided on who was going to be where in the order. I'm assuming they had to draw names out of a hat or something like that to make it fair, I would have hoped. But Sam was really good at it. So obviously Luke targeting him, he could play it off as you're a threat and I need to take you out because you're going to probably win the shield from me. And then Liam kind of just followed suit on that. And the girls just kept targeting Liam for some other reason. They just kept going after him. Can you remember why Liam was their biggest target? I think Annabelle just didn't want to show her hand by targeting Sam early on. But I'm not too sure why the rest of them target. But I don't know why the rest targeted him, though. Can't remember.
Yeah, I've got no idea. But let's not forget, they were Liam's angels when it came down to the four of them, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, either way, they still missed by miles. So I'm not sure if they were targeting him or targeting outer space.
Childhood here saying, I miss the US Survivor Challenge where you can cut the rope with opponents. They would get salty. I miss those types of things as well. Or, when you talk about things like, who would you least trust out in the wilderness if your life depended on it? Or who's got the worst manners at night and snores the loudest or something like that. It's like the fun stuff they used to do, and people would pile on people, and it would used to be funny, but they don't do it anymore, which is sad. Danica says, Chowder at the beaches where our family plays. Oh, yeah, that's about the comment about you can't walk on the sand in Australia because the sand gets too hot. You got to have some jandals on there if you're on the beach. But yeah, ultimately Liam does take out the win here in the end. He does end up going, but Annabelle has her moment, and they got me with the edit where she's like, I've never fired a gun before. No one in my family has ever done this, and she's there right at the end going head to head with Liam, saying, "How glorious would it be?" Annabelle's saying, I'm going for glory. She says, my aim, how do I put this politely, is shit. And then she's like, how glorious would it be if I could pull it out there in the end? But she sadly misses it. So she doesn't get her moment. But I mean, the editors are getting every little bit from her that they can when it comes to those confessionals.
Yeah, definitely. And not just with Annabelle, so with everyone, right? I feel like they are so perfectly they're good in terms of comedy. Like they nail everything. We talked about like the slow-mo shots earlier and how they did like the replay, but they add in that sort of like sad, sort of warish type, music. It's
to me it says a lot. Moment. To me, it says a lot that in a season that has Luke Toki on it, Annabelle is coming across as the MVP. Like on the confessionals, like she's carrying it right now. And Luke's not doing bad; he's doing what he does always. It's just her personality is so over the top, and it's fun, and it's great one-liners, and it's fresh. We haven't seen. This is why I'm always in favor of new people getting casted on these shows, so we can discover new talent on our TV screens as well, instead of just bringing the same people over and over to the shows as well. But Liam does win it. So he does have the shield for a second time this season. He knows now openly that he can't be targeted by the Traitors. And back at the house, Luke is going ham, man. He's trying to figure out stuff. He's trying to get Sam's name out there. But I really liked how Luke went about trying to get the votes for Sam, because he doesn't outright tell people, let's vote for Sam. He's trying to convince them that, hey, maybe we should look at someone that threw names out there. Who threw names out there last night? Who's the one
Mm.
that was sort of driving it? Do you think that there was a mutiny? Both him and Annabelle, they're playing kind of a game where they're feeling people out instead of just outright saying go for Sam, which I think is the right way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean it's a great strategy, right? Because even though it's your move, you're making the other person feel like it's their move because they're the ones who said that name, right? And so I feel like if you we saw them both, they're really trying to push that out of people by being like, just say the name Sam, just say the name Sam. Which some people did, but I loved the moment with Ian when when Luke was like, so Ian, if you could not vote for Liam and you had to vote for someone else, who would it be? And Ian's like, oh, probably you.
That was so dumb.
So bad.
I absolutely, man. When that happened, I was thinking to myself, Ian's a recruit. Like, he has not watched any of Luke's seasons. He's never watched Survivor. Like, you never tell the person that you're suspicious of to their face, I'm coming for you. And especially someone as influential as Luke as well. And I think that's the point where Luke was like, well, if you're going to dig your own grave, you're going to dig your own grave. But it was funny to see Luke put in all this work and for Liam just to like counteract it and start his own like crusade against Ian. Hannah, who again is a big character on Below Deck, is really not getting that much content yet. She's like, I'm going back and forth. I'm getting whiplash from these two people fighting in front of me. Roa's loving it, So it was interesting to see them go back and forth. But for someone like Luke, who's an experienced campaigner, who's already figured it out, Annabelle's figured it out, where the rest of the cast, they all seem to be in the dark. None of them are even close to who this person's going to be. It must be super frustrating. And how awesome is it, like, for someone like Annabelle to be right up there, playing her first time, being right up there. Her reads are good with Luke, and she's playing with one of the people that she idolized.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that today. Like, how much of a dream come true would it be to not only play a game with Luke, but to be their sort of, right-hand person, right? Like, you're up there with a strategy, you're bouncing ideas off of each other, and you're splitting off, trying to bring in numbers and stuff, trying to do all these different sneaky strategies to not accidentally make yourself as a target. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It must be quite frustrating to not have everyone at that level. But also at the same time, if everyone was at that level, then maybe everyone would have seen Luke and Annabelle as massive threats much earlier.
Yeah.
So
yeah, probably. Which, it probably helps them a little bit, especially Luke. I think the fact that he hasn't been targeted earlier on, it's impressive. It's impressive for him even just to get as far as he has so far. Childhood here asks, do you think this is a better season than season 1? And yes, I do. I liked season 1, but I really enjoyed this season. I think that there are bigger, bolder, and braver players playing this game, which is good. Andre is saying it needs to be the ending of season 1. I agree. Danica is saying, Mucky, CT on the challenge is the best at getting other people to say the names. They then end up in trouble and not him. CT is one of the goats of the challenge for that very reason. He's really good at it. But, ultimately, going into this, I feel like that was the main bits of the back and forth in the house. We go into the banishment pretty quickly because of the two challenges. They didn't have too much time showing us the strategy part of it. And going into it, they basically have Annabelle speaking up about the potential of a mutiny, mentioning that she thinks there was more at play. Do you think that Annabelle is starting to fly a bit close to the sun here by putting this out there and having Sam and Blake sitting there thinking, oh, wow, she's reading stuff that maybe we don't want her to read this early in the game?
I think it's something where she's setting it up for the next round, right? Like, she wasn't going hard about it. She was just sort of mentioning, if that makes sense, like, I think there potentially was like a mutiny of some kind, right? So then you're slowly planting that seed in, right? Because otherwise, if you just tell everyone straight up, oh no, I firmly believe there was a mutiny and that Sam is another traitor, there's a lot for people to take in, right? But if you sort of let the idea
Mm.
soak in for a bit, then it's like, okay, yeah, no, that could potentially make some sense, right? So I thought it was smart for Annabelle to bring it up, and I think it was also really smart for her not to go too hard on the idea just yet either. But it definitely seems like for next week that she goes really hard on it. So
Yeah,
that's how
that's
I
a
saw
good comment. That's a good comment because we only see little bits and snippets of what's discussed at those, table discussions. And I do think
it.
that sometimes maybe like kind of like Tribal Council and Survivor, where they let us know that it can go on for hours or like an
Yeah.
hour plus. We only see like a snippet. And I'm sure a lot of other people said a lot more as well, where she felt comfortable to give her theories because at the end of the day, the show's going to show what makes sense. And there was a
Yeah.
mutiny. She is on the money, so they're going to show that. So to us, it looks like she's speaking out a little bit, but maybe she's just one of many people that has a theory, but her theory just happened to be the right one at this stage in
Yeah.
the game. And obviously, we see Ian and Liam completely in the dark going for each other. Ian turns up and he says that he listens a lot. He doesn't always contribute because he doesn't feel like he's strategically the best, when it comes to the game. So he's trying to figure things out. Ian says that the only strategy that anyone had so far in the game that is good, and that's why he doesn't feel like he needs to be blamed, is Sam. Sam was the only one who had a good strategy on getting a traitor out in the game. So again, putting that sort of attention there. And Hannah kind of brings Blake into the game and she says, Blake, what do you think? And, he suddenly has to give a little bit of his theory of who he is thinking, and he's sort of leaning towards Liam. But up until this point, I thought Blake was playing the best trader game. Like, that's kind of how you want to play a trader game. You don't want to be too out there. Like, if everybody played like Blake, it would be boring. You need a Sam.
Yeah.
You need an Ash.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
to win the game at this point, I felt like he was playing really well. But yeah, Hannah sort of pointing him out as someone that's sort of also sitting back, maybe similar to Ian at this stage in the game. So I feel like this is sort of setting things up for a bit more heat to come Blake's way because we haven't mentioned his name very often. The show's called Traitors, and he's one of them. What's your thoughts on him?
I think he's very chill, right? He's definitely sitting back. He's taking the chill, which I think for the personalities of Ash and Sam, that's the right thing to do. You see them, go after each other. You don't want to interject that, right? Because then what if they all turn on you, or if you're trying to stop it, people think, okay, maybe these three are the three traitors, right? So I think he's done really well, sort of just chilling and sitting back, not really being too involved in the drama. I think now that since his name's sort of been called out, maybe he might be a bit more active in terms of things. But I think so far he's playing like really well. Yeah.
Oh, Tom is in the chat. Hey guys. Tom,
hey, welcome. My boy Tom.
We're sort of closing off pretty soon, so I would have said otherwise you could jump in, but we'll see if we could get you in next week as we're sort of finishing off on this side. But yeah, I think you're making a good point, and Andre is saying also here he's looking forward for more from Hannah, struggling to work out how strategic she is, and I do think that Hannah is someone that is loud and she is very socially strategic, even from below deck. The way she kind of handled herself socially is very interesting. So I feel like she's going to become a bigger player. And I'm actually not upset that she's not getting too much content because that means she's probably going deeper in the game and we'll see more of her as the game progresses. Similar to a Simone, who always seems to be in it. And Simone was on the wrong person here as well. She was thinking it's Liam as well. But Ian does end up getting voted out of the game here. He's banished. And Annabelle and Luke, they're playing the long game. They don't show their cards here. They don't vote for Sam immediately. But in Traitors Towers, they get another option here to recruit. And again, maybe Blake and Sam is feeling themselves a little bit right now. They're not really wanting to add anyone into it. What do you think about the fact that they don't want to add someone to the team? Like, if you had the option and there were two people working together as traders, would you add someone into the traders with you? Or would you rather have two people, like one other person to work with?
I mean, it really depends on the scenario. So, for example, with Traders New Zealand, the two current traders at the moment are real life best friends, right? And so when you kind of have that dynamic, you can
Sounds
easily
like another Survivor New Zealand situation here, mate. What's going on?
Well, it's a celebrity cast, except for one person, which that one person was always on the verge of getting voted out every time, just because what makes you so special,
Yeah,
exactly?
Pleb. You're a pleb. Get out of
Yeah,
here.
yeah, exactly. So
Oh,
everyone
man.
basically knows each other on the cast, which I personally don't mind, but I know that some others do have issues for. But yeah, it really comes down to your vibe with the other traitor, right? You know, for example, Chris, I know if we were traitors, we'd easily be able to help each other out, right? Because we know each other very well. So you could easily be like, oh, Maki, you need to change this up and start doing this a bit more. And I could, do the same for you. Whereas I feel like with strangers, is a bit harder with that, right? And I feel like Sam and Blake feel really confident and comfortable in their position because at this point, they don't realize how much trouble Sam is in, right? I think they're going to regret it. I think they should have recruited this round. But I just think, with the information they have at the time, they think that no one's really onto them. There's maybe a suspicion of a mutiny, but, that wasn't really, Yeah,
That
that's
sounds like
actually
a mucky
exactly.
plan.
I mean, that's exactly what happened in the recent New Zealand Traders episode. It's
Yeah.
it's a great strategy.
Welcome in. Let me take you out so that we look like the true trader hunters and like we know what we're doing.
Yeah,
Chadwick brings up a very interesting point here and says, I feel like once she blurts out who the traders are, that means the trader won't be able to touch her because if she gets murdered, then they will know who the traders are. And that's a good point. That's a good point.
yeah,
It
it's a
could
great
give her a
point.
little bit, or the trader could be like, is that what they want you to think? They took them out clearly because I wouldn't be that dumb as a trader to do that. Like
Mm,
that would just be too obvious. So you could do the double bluff. It's a few different ways you could play it. Artie's saying Liam, nice bloke, but totally clueless. I agree.
yeah,
Thomas saying just got home from work. Jeez, mate, you're working quite late today. Scott is saying, yes, I am from Chicago. Ready for you with a pizza and a beer if you ever get here. 100%.
yeah,
I'd love to see Chicago at some stage. Andre saying, yeah, that surviving New Zealand situation
yeah,
was brutal. Adi saying, recruit a new trader, then immediately target them, which we just read. Okay, so going into this, they do decide not to do it, but then there is a lot of talk about who should they target next, and they're kind of going back and forth between Roa and Luke, and they could have left us on a great cliffhanger here. I was very fearful for Luke. I thought Luke's goose was
yeah.
cooked. But
Me
they
too.
they revealed it all. They revealed it all. They just
Yeah,
Channel 10 can't help themselves. They want people to come back and watch the next episode. So they show us Luke and Annabelle fighting tooth and nail
mm,
against Sam and Blake. Annabelle is calling both of them out at the same time, saying,
yeah,
Sam
yeah,
and Blake, you're the traitors. So next
yeah.
week's going to be lit, man. I can't wait to
Yeah,
watch that
very lit.
episode. I think it's going to be really good.
Yeah, it's gonna be more lit than a thing of weed. What is it called? Those glass things? A bong. It's gonna be more lit than a bong, baby. I'm so excited. So
Yeah,
excited for
100%.
it.
Danica is saying, Mucky, that was a really smart move on New
Mm.
Zealand, but I think she knew that. It did set them through, though. They both voted for other people, so the cast suspicious on them.
Well, I think, not to make this about Trace New Zealand Danica, but I think a specific person is in a lot of trouble though after that for next week. But we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a very exciting week for both New Zealand and Australian traders, where the traders are definitely on the hot seat.
100%.
So, yeah.
Well, we won't ruin it for you. For next week, we
Ah,
won't let you guys in on it. One of us may be here, one of us might be. Trader's going to trade. You never know what's going to happen
yeah.
by next week. It might be a completely different setup for the hosting panel, or we may stay faithful to each other and be back
No.
together to cover the next Traders episode here for Australia. But for this week, it's been a lot of fun. Consider subscribing to the channel. If you're still here, you're a real one. You clearly like our content. We're very close to 2,000 subscribers. When we get 2,000 subscribers, if you love us just bantering and talking back and forth and completely going off topic, that is what we're going to give you if we get to 2,000 subscribers, because we'll do a record long live, where I'll smash Kona's record for $1 Million Island, and we'll go way longer than Kahuna on $1 Million Island.
Yes.
And we'll have everybody on here to talk about the shows we love, and we'll have a big celebration to hit the 2,000, which is a big goal for us on the channel. Aria is saying, how long? How long can we go? 4 hours, 6 hours? It remains to be seen, but we'll definitely put in the effort. I tell you that much, and we'll try and see if we can get some fellow content creators on to come and have a chat. We'll try and see if we can get everybody that's part of the Nullified Take channel to come on. We are growing a lot. There's a lot of new hosts coming on board for some of the Survivor content we're doing, and then obviously the likes of Amaki, Kahuna, Tom, everybody that you know for Traitors, they'll be on here as well. Andre Lee is demanding a 24-hour stream. Andre, you're trying to kill me.
I can do that.
48 hours stream.
You know what?
Maybe 24 would be a lot of fun. But yeah. Anyways, let's stop while we're ahead, Mucky. Don't overpromise and then we underdeliver. Underpromise and overdeliver is my philosophy in life. Jadu says, "What a great live stream, everybody! Thank you so much here in the live. We really appreciate you. We'll catch you guys next week when we talk about the next week's action for Traitors, and be sure to come back to watch Traitors New Zealand, which Mucky already did last night if you're watching that, and also the challenge content. We will be talking about the latest week's action for the Challenge USA Season 2 as well. Catch you guys next time. Bye.